Welcome back to the Forensics Detailing channel. Today's discussion is all about maximising your amount of cut that you get in your cutting set when you're doing multiple stage cut, compound and then finish with a finishing polish. So my aim on paintwork like this is always really to do one cutting set. And you can see the compounding haze there from where I've cut that's got to be finished out. So two-stage is when you have more than one day, the way to go. If you've only got a day to polish a car, then you probably want to hit it with a polish, a finer polish or a single stage product, and what you get is what you get. But a cut and finish is a great way of really maximising the amount of cut you get, and finishing is a great way of maximising the finish you get. So you really do, those two sets are really quite sweet, but it takes a bit longer. So how do we maximise, guys? Well, first off, it's important to understand that we've got free spinning dual action polishers. We've got rotary polishers like the PE14, the DeWalt there, and we've got forced rotation. 99% of you are going to be using free spinning polishers like this is Imran's DA15, which is fine, a dual action polisher. I'll be demoing this on the XCE, which is a forced rotation, because I prefer it. And I can pressure in a little bit and it doesn't affect the machine. And I can also edge better with it. And that's my first tip, is that I think the XCE, especially the cordless version, is a fantastic polisher. I love this machine. I really can't find any fault with it. I don't have any fault issues with juggling batteries at all. I love the ergonomics of the machine. From using it for a few years, I think the only thing is it would be nice if this was rubberized or had a case, because you have to really be careful not to drop that heavy battery and hold the tool properly. That's about the only thing. The rest of it is really, really good. Now, that's polishers covered. So really, you're going to be using a dual action polisher. Where should you set your polisher speed to maximise your cut? Well, two things you should consider is you don't want the pads, I just don't want to get the pad on the side. You don't want the pad to be getting hot. You don't want the surface of the paintwork to be getting hot, because the pad starts softening up. You start heating the polish up quicker, and with some polishes don't like that, and they can dust. And you can just make, and when you're going at max speed, you also run the risk of throwing product around. So what you want to do with this is find, I mean, speed 5 is just about ideal, really. You could go up to 6, because sometimes it doesn't make that much difference with the cordless one. It's all the same. With a free spinning dual action polisher, you want to crank the speed up to the point where you really notice the pad isn't stalling, and it isn't going hell for leather, and it isn't like dusting up the compound, which is usually back, say if the top is 6, back it down somewhere to 4 or 5 till you find a good spot where it is. The difference with the dual action polisher is when you do try to pressure in, especially say if you're polishing into here, where there's a channel, and you try to pressure in and use a bit of tilt and stuff, you'll stall out the machine and it won't quite be working as it should. But when you're on a lovely flat panel and it's spinning and doing its thing, then it's working. Whereas this, you never get that problem, but you do get the problem that the tool's going to, because it's driven, you're going to feel it a little bit more, but you get used to that very, very rapidly. For some reason, because it's not spinning that quickly, this machine, it's more doing that, it doesn't really walk you around that much. If you do decide to go with the rotary, that's a whole other world. And the rotary polisher, the danger is when you start using it, if you haven't used it before, it can pull you, when you suddenly change the angle and it bites into the machine, it can walk you. So you've got to get your technique right. It can also sling and splatter, and it can also, the holograms are lesser a problem in a two-stage polish, but if you're single staging or you're rushing and you're cutting really quickly and putting holograms in, they can be hard to see and they can show up later on, So probably the rotary isn't the ideal choice to start with, and that's why I think most people go with dual action. So that's the machines covered. The next thing is your product. So I'm using the heaviest cutting compound, I think, in the Geon range, or it's the most lubricated. This may have the same cut as their normal compound, but I think it's definitely got more lubrication. You can work the hell out of this and it doesn't dust on this machine, which is great. And it's really easy to buff It's a really nice product, actually. The only disadvantage is you do get the compounding haze, so you have to finish this product out, really, and you can really notice that on black paint. But just because you can't see it on the other colours, if you're doing a white car, doesn't mean it's there. So you should, if you're using the heaviest hammer in any range, finish it out. So that's the thing. Go for the heaviest hammer within a. So there are heavier hammers than Geon Compound Plus. I could get the Shoal S0 matting compound, which is almost like wet sanding and stuff. But we're talking about ones that have a reasonable level of finish as well. You've also got all the other polishes and products that I use. The Koch H8 there, which is fantastic. And in my cupboards, I've got all the Shoal stuff. That's at the back. And I've got the Rupes stuff. I kept the Angel Wax Enigma one because I always wanted to give that another go. That's a single stage. So you could reach for the heaviest hammer abrasive wise. What you want when you're picking an abrasive is you want to use it without encountering any problems. So what do I mean by problems? You don't want it dusting really easily. You don't want it kind of difficult to wipe off of the panel potentially. You might have different preferences on processing times. For example, the Rupes Blue Coarse compound is a very short set, so it'd be very quick, very rapid. But if you do overwork it, you can dust it and it can be harder to buff. So there's all these little things with each product that you get to learn, and you have to learn how to use each product, which is cool, and all the little differences. But generally, whatever your brand of polish that you use, when you pick their extra cut compound, you want it to be nice and easy to use and wipe off the panel. You don't want it perhaps too oily. Sometimes I find the Shoal stuff can be really greasy, and I'm worried about that when I'm coating, but it's got its advantages that it's so nice to use because of that. So you'll find the right tool for you. Try a few different polishes. You've got loads of good polish brands: Menzerla, Koch, Shoal, Geon, Rupes. They're all top drawer, and the differences will be quite small. Next thing is pad choice, guys. Well, if you really want to maximise the amount of cut, then I think really the way to do it is to take Rupes Blue wool, which is very coarse, very aggressive, really bites into the paint. There's a nice bit of foam there though, so it doesn't feel too, it doesn't bounce around on the panel or anything. It's got that soft feel, so it feels nice to use. That will introduce even more hazing, which that isn't a problem if you're doing a two-stage. Why am I not using foam on this set? Well, the extra heavy cutting foam pad is working. It's taking out a good level of defect. This paint isn't that hard and it's responding well. So last time I used wool, it was because it was an Audi and it was rock hard, and I couldn't cut it as well as it needed to be cut with foam. So there's an option for you. But if you're starting out, I would suggest you just go with an extra heavy cutting pad that's perhaps foam, because they're easier to manage and clean out at the end, probably cheaper, but it depends on your paintwork. Wool is a really nice option if you're into all of this. You also got microfiber, which I'm still not that keen on really. I just find, even with the wool, after I've done a set, I go over it, brush it all up, and it's nice and fluffy. Whereas microfiber, as soon as I start polishing, I'll use it on a normal DA, not the forced rotation. I've got like a flat surface where all the microfiber has just gone over and it's flat, and that's the only thing I don't like the feel. So you're gonna have your preferences. You can only use one whenever you're doing stuff. So microfiber probably isn't for me, although it does cut well, and lots of people love it. Now that's everything about machines and compounds and pads, and they're less important. When you're new to this, you sort of think that it's the tooling, I must use this and this because someone else has shown me and it's the best. It's more about just doing a good job with the polishing, I think. And I'm going to show you live, which isn't often done, is it? You don't really see much live polishing anywhere on the internet. So all of this swirling is nothing really. It's all just clay marring on the surface, and it's all good. But you can see some deeper scratches underneath, sort of like around there somewhere. Some of it is not clay marring, but my aim is after this polishing set for this rear section here to be really good and to be ready to be polished. Oh, The little thing fell off my light. The hell? Probably just sort of a thread, or is that just, oh, it's glued. That just worked its way off. Oh, you little swine. That's not good. Been a great tool, this. Something's just gone for that. That looks okay. Okay, I'll have to check that afterwards. I've got a deep scratch there that I'm going to wet sand, and that's a different kind of different. Oh, I've lost the torch. Battery must be flat on it as well. That was funny timing, wasn't it? Don't say it's busted. Can't be. Oh, the lens has come off as well. Oh, you swine. Where's that gone there? Oh, there it is. God, lucky I didn't stand on it. Look, the lens has fallen out. Well, that was bizarre. I didn't tap it or anything. It just gave up the ghost. Give that a little polish. Oh, this is a nice little interesting interlude. Need to play that interlude music. Bizarre. How bizarre. Okay, we'll sort that out later on. I suspect two things have happened. The battery's gone flat. For some reason, it just decided to fall out. Let's take another light source. Deflection pen. Can we still demo it with that? Not as good, is it? Oh yeah, okay, it's okay for what it is. Yeah, it's quite good. Oh, it's all right. Not as good as that big, powerful thing. Okay, so maximising with technique. So the important thing, our pad is primed. It's been going. We've taped off there. It's just going to stop us putting polish into the rubber. We'll do the whole bit. So because we've got a prime pad, we're just going to put down 4 good dollops of polish. I'm not sure if this dollop thing like that is necessarily the best way to put out polish, but it doesn't matter. Yes, stop thinking, just get on with it. Right, so we do our little 6-way dice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's like the 8 hearts. Just back. And then, as always, we spread it out on speed 1. And we're going to put our speed up to 5. Now, the great thing about this tool is being able to use a little bit of pressure. And what I want to do is do those 4 passes over. And this is a curvy, kind of reasonably tricky. Well, it's not that tricky, but it's not a flat bonnet where it's really easy to polish. And this is where I think this machine comes in really good. Sometimes if I'm using a 5-inch pad on the DA, I might miss little bits and it won't like that channel there when I'm going over that. So let's start polishing. And the key thing that I'm going to do is just pressure into the paint a little bit and really let the machine do the work rather than me. And just let the machine go over that panel like a robot. That is the really important thing. There's 50% overlap, you can hear that. We're getting to that little bit. You can see that in polish very well there. Okay, keep going. Okay, now we change directions. Battery's running a little bit low. You can feel it. Okay, so that's two really thorough passes. We've got two more passes to do. You notice I'm speeding up just a little bit. And there we go. So that's starting to just cake up towards the end then, so I need to clean my pad. Might be a good time now to swap pads over to a fresh pad. Oops, as you can see there. Yeah, probably be all right. And we'll come in and buff. So the key thing was just a little bit of pressure and just doing a good consistent 4-pass set. Making sure I've got every bit of the panel kind of cut, which is important. Let's get all that polish up, and also always get all the polish up at the end of the set. Always, because if you leave it in places, it dries and it becomes a nightmare to get off. This is quite a nice compound to buff. I'm actually using the soft wipe, aren't I? So there we go. After a while, you sort of get the breakdown, so the polish will start off a bit whiter, a bit more kind of milky, you know, and then as you work it, it kind of breaks down and goes a bit more see-through. Where's my torchy? And once you get to that stage, you're probably cutting less. Notice I got less compound marring. So that perhaps the set I did there wasn't perhaps long enough. So if you let it break down a bit more, you get a bit less compound marring. But let's get right in there. So you can, we got some machine marring actually that you can probably just see. Not much, but just some. So that's going to get taken out by the finishing polish as well. So what we've done there, which is torch is quite good for really fine, spotting the fine stuff. So what we've done there is taken out all of that deep haze. Got some hazing there from the compounding. I'm just looking for like deep scratches that are left. I don't think we've really got any. Just got machine marring really. A little bit hazing as well. So that paintwork, in fact this whole side here all the way to the door is now ready to be finished out. But I'm going to carry on cutting. Next I'm going to wet sand on that a little bit. Then cut up here. And cut all the way along there. I'll tape off there. Oh, hold on. Yeah, I'll come back in a minute. Yeah? Interruptions. Cut all of that. Cut this side of the roof. And then go and finish it all out. And then I'll leave the rear tailgate section, or whatever that is, engine cover, and the rear bumper. Once I've cut and finished this side, I'll go to the other side, cut and finish that side, and then I'll just have, all I'll have left probably tomorrow is the rear section to do, which is fine. I've got to do the wing mirrors as well. I've got to do the seals, which are a pain. But you get the idea. These little sort of live polishing things I think are quite useful. There's nothing really to be scared about, is there? But it's just kind of knowing, like, I'm very lucky to have the garage and be able to sort of like have the time to kind of go in and look, you know. Actually, this is interesting. So if we go and look here, that's been finished. So we don't have any of that. If I come right in, we don't have any of that machine marring once we've finished out. And like, that could be a mistake, couldn't it? You could polish your machine car outside and not have a good torch or something, and not potentially be able to see what's going on here. So really, yeah, you do need to kind of just be able to look at what your results and sort of say, that's fine, that's good. So I know I don't need to cut that again, and I know that's going to finish out great. And it's, I guess, it's kind of knowing that, isn't it? You might not know that, and you might just, if you're doing this for the first time, you might just grab any product and go over and polish it and think, well, I'm not getting good results. But it's just knowing the difference between what you're doing when you're cutting and what you're doing kind of when you're finishing, and what to kind of look for. So I am just looking for swirl kind of removal when I'm doing the cutting. I'm not worried about a perfect final finish. I'm not too worried about machine marring. Although in some soft paints, you know, and you're using wool, you might be all right. If you're putting any machine marring on soft paint, when you finish out, just go with the real softest option, a foam pad and a really fine finishing polish, and kind of almost do the same thing. But you know, do your finishing set, but you probably don't need to do 4 really slow passes. I've been, with the primer, I've been doing 2 really slow passes and then just finish it off on a slightly slower speed as well. Only slightly slower, and less pressure as well, but that's it. Yeah, and the results are really going to be good. It's just taking quite a long time. I wish there was a quick way to do it. I wish there was. But this is really what's best for this car. Sorry about the camera work. This is what's probably best for this car, bearing in mind its age. I think it really does need that cutting set, actually. And the temptation was and is to single stage it, when really this is perhaps giving you the best bang for your buck. So there we go. So there's a little video on maximising your cutting set. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else I haven't covered. Probably is. I mean, obviously, the ultimate maxing your cutting set is to machine sand it. But even I wouldn't want to do that. Sometimes you can machine sand or hand sand on a car, and it can be an absolute nightmare to get those out. If you wet sand on hard paint and you don't do it properly with the right grip paper, you can put in really deep scratches that can take a hell of a lot of cutting to get out. So you really need to kind of be careful if you're going to go wet sanding. In fact, you shouldn't really go wet sanding. And if you are going to do it, do a little test spot first of all. Make sure you can compound out anything that you put in there, and then do it panel by panel very slowly, and just take your time and do it. Probably do it at P3000 rather than trying to take off too much. You know, wet sanding, you have to be very careful on the edges as well. You go over an edge, and you can take the paint off very easily. So there we go. Thank you for watching, guys. Take care, and I'll see you soon. Don't forget to subscribe. And yeah, if you want to see the finished car.